For me, what is successful and failure in life is all relative. I think no one can tell you what success should look like. I feel like it's about knowing what I want for myself.
Okay.
In the music industry, there are very specific standards of success. Like you have to maybe like win an award, be recognized by the industry, be able to be very well known. But that also doesn't match up to how talented you are as a musician or how good your music is.
夜半三更有盼天明，寒冬腊月有盼春风。
Yijia is an extremely talented singer, originally from China. And she came to SOAS with a passionate interest in finding out more about music from around the world and also exploring her own traditions, beyond those of the region of China that she's from originally, but looking more widely at other styles of singing from East Asia. Immediately, we realized that she was someone who would be a very special student. And also, she came to us with already a considerable reputation back home in China as a pop singer.
So when I was 15, I had this opportunity to be on this TV show called Sing My Song or 中国好歌曲, and it's basically a music show where you sing your original music. So I went on the show not really knowing what to expect. After the show, there were like so many people talking about me like on the internet, and I realized that my life had changed overnight just from like that 1 hour of episode that was being aired, which was quite interesting. And then since then, I feel like I entered a parallel universe where I was like the Hannah Montana version of myself, because in a way I'm still like a student in high school and secondary school doing music and composition in my hometown in Sichuan and Chengdu. But on the other hand, I also had like this pop career where people would recognize me, so like I've had people recognize me on the street, or I would like hear my music being played in public, on radio, like in restaurants, and it was just like the most bizarre thing. Why did I come to London? I ask myself that every day. I feel like I wanted a change. I feel like, with plants, if you always have the same soil, it would have absorbed all its nutrition in the plot. And you have to change the soil every once in a while so it gets different nutritions. And I feel like that's me with environments. Like I need to constantly change my environment in order to get new inspiration and learn new things. And I feel like in China, I've already had the pleasure of working with like some of the top musicians of the industry. I also really wanted to study more about music. When you're working as a musician, you're constantly giving out stuff and expressing out, but you're not absorbing new things. So I came to the UK and I wanted to like come to a country where historically it's, generated lots of great bands, lots of great musicians, to see like, what is it about the society and the music scene there that, generates great artists.
In the process of getting to know her in the first year of her music studies, she had many encounters with other students who were specialists in other areas of music, and that was how we began to realize that Yijia had great potential as a musical collaborator, as someone who could develop intercultural or intra-cultural musical projects.
The first time I met Yijia, there was a connection. It felt like I had met a long-lost friend. We met in an elevator in London in our student halls, and I was wearing a SOAS hoodie, and she saw it and was like, "Oh, you go to SOAS? I go to SOAS as well." And I was like, "Oh my God, what do you study?" And she said that she was studying music, and it was in first year. There was an instant connection because I had always been so fascinated by traditional Chinese music, and she had always been so fascinated by Irish traditional music. So we had that weird connection and love for each other's traditions and cultures.
Basically, the Sages just started out as me, jamming along with like my good friends, my best friends at uni, and we're just all music lovers. Like, what else were we gonna do, in our free time? And then, for example, it would be like, oh, like I know this Chinese song, and Peter would be like, I know this Irish song. I'm like, oh, I love Irish music. He's like, oh, I love Chinese music. Oh, let's jam. So we just started jamming along.
In traditional Chinese folklore, there are the 7 sages who are wise old men who told stories and through music. So we were kind of we wanted a name that represented the traditional side of stuff that we were doing.
After coming to the UK, ironically, I wanted to learn a Chinese instrument, so I learned the guzheng, which literally means the Asian scissor in Chinese, and it's a 21-string instrument that's pentatonic, and I got the instrument because I really like the sound of it. Like, it sounds like the flowy mountains and dream and in the misty mountains. It's a dream, but only I can wait. Because like a tree, we cannot exist without having a very stable, fundamental part of ourselves. And with like a tall building as well, the taller the building is, the deeper the foundation goes. And I feel like with music and arts, people probably just see the service part, like the tip of the iceberg, but what goes underneath is like all these inspiration, all these things that you've learned and picked up for your music environment. And I feel like if you have access to your tradition, it's like opening this like treasure box of all these amazing musicians who came before you. So I used to joke that my music is basically me having an identity crisis, which is fine because I feel like through crisis, that's how we learn. And maybe there is no such thing as identity, we're all just like a progress of trying to find our identity and then not really fitting it and then trying to search for it again. So there is no fixed identity, it's always changing, it's always like relative. And I feel like it shows in my music.
Before we met properly, I had seen her perform in SOAS at an open mic, and I heard her doing the throat singing, and I was blown away. First of all, I had just come to a new city, and I was expecting to have to perform a certain style of music to make people like me, and she went up there and did throat singing, and I was like, this is amazing. When you think about throat singing, the one that comes to mind mostly is Mongolian throat singing. And I think I have always kind of generalized throat singing into the one genre, Mongolian throat singing, but you find it all over the world. You find it in Mongolia, in Tuva, you find it in Tibet, but you also find it in some western parts of the world like Sardinia, and even in country music as well.
We shared each other's part.
For me, I can't really describe my style with the existing terms of genres because my style is about breaking all of these genres. So in a way, my style is no style, but every style. Sometimes I throw in a bit of electronic stuff in. Sometimes it's more like folky singer-songwriter. Sometimes it's more traditional Chinese. Sometimes it's more modern. So it's like anywhere within the spectrum. So I feel like genres historically exist as a category to try and market music together. Because like if you like this particular type, maybe you'll like this other thing. And my love-hate relationship with world music is that I think it's great in the sense that people can actually celebrate connecting with their tradition and with their roots as musicians, but still have the creativity of being innovative with your tradition. So it's not like, oh, like you're Chinese, you can only play classical Chinese traditional music. Like, no, I'm able to play other stuff, but I'm also, proud of my culture, and I'm also willing to explore the past where I do connect with my tradition.
The whole question of world music as a label is very problematic and has been contested for a long time from its start. It dates back to 1987 with a meeting between different small independent record companies that were beginning to put out albums by African artists. It was kind of the 80s was, the era of disco and very heavily produced music, and there were a small number of DJs who were interested in music that had more of a sense of location. So that was I think the impetus behind the interest in musics from other parts of the world. And so they got together, these record companies got together, and they wanted to find a way of getting their records into shops. It was just a practical thing. Where do they file our vinyl our LP, where do they file it? Do they file it under the name of the artist? No one has heard of Franco Luambo Macchiati. But if we put it in world music, and then it's under Congo, or Zaire as it was then, and then you find Franco, then you know that you're looking for Congolese music, and you'll find it. And that's what happened. So in the beginning, it just had a purely practical purpose, because it got albums into the record shops, and people knew how to find them. But it served its purpose. It's outlived its purpose, I would say. I would say that we don't need the music, the label world music anymore.
It's been such a blast performing with the Sages. It's been pretty surreal. I've had so many incredible experiences. I've traveled to places across the UK and performed in venues that I could have only dreamed of performing in, such as Asia House, which was an incredible concert. It was such an honor to play here.
The thing was like a uni student band. Everyone graduate at different times and have different things planned in life. And because we're all international, we came to London kind of temporarily. So the band was like a snapshot of like a very brief moment in life where we're all in the same place at the same time, and then we go separate ways. If you look at it, for me, it's like celebrating, the time that we do have together while we have it, and we're capturing it through music making, and we still have like footages where we play together. And I think that's really nice, because like nothing lasts forever in life, no gathering without, there's a Chinese phrase, there's no partying or no gathering without people saying goodbye. So at least we can use this gathering to make music, and I think that's quite nice. When I was young, I used to think more about, from my own perspective, why I want to do this, why I should be able to get what I want, why people should listen to me. But as I've gotten older, I've tried to look at it from the opposite perspective. What am I trying to contribute in my music? What is the value of my music? And for me, I feel like I really want to be able to express a sense of beauty and a sense of almost like the spirituality of things through music, because I think music is one of those things, you can't see it, you can't physically touch music itself. So in a way, I think music from like a more spiritual perspective is like a very advanced way of expressing what it means to be human. And with my music, I'm getting there, but it's what I'm trying to do eventually. I'm hoping to, on one hand, bring some kind of peace or beauty into people's life when they hear this music. So it's like a sense of enjoyment, and maybe from like a higher level, evoke some kind of sense of awakening in people's awareness of consciousness and what it means to be human. Let's see if I can try and do it. song that we perform called Congruoi, it's one of the songs that shaped like my identity in life. Like after I first heard this sound, I was like, this is such a beautiful song. In a way, it's a traditional Tuvan song, but it's not limited to the Tuvan culture. Like I've played it to people from all across the world, and people can connect to it. So in a way, it's one of those music that can surpass, borders and national borders, cultural borders, and boundaries. And I think it connects us together through music, and that's really important. So I started learning the song myself and then showing it to Patter, and then we started performing it because we both really loved it. And it's one of those songs that, we probably had the most amount of people cry and then, be touched by it and tell us how much they love it afterwards. So I think there's definitely something really special about the song. So my only actual advice would be to just follow your heart, write whatever music that you wanted to write, and don't listen to other people about how you should do it, how you should write songs. Like you should just really follow your heart and do what feels most natural for you. And that's the advice I would give to myself as well.
走透透的那个路，自由。闪闪闪的那个